Hi, my name is David Edward, and I'm the author of The Gloss and Equal Opportunity Demolition of What Everyone Thinks Everyone Else Gets Wrong About the Bible. I'm recording the audiobook, and I thought an interesting way to do it would be to also capture the video so I can release it on platforms like YouTube. So this is me recording the audiobook. You get to watch me. We've made some interesting graphics. Let me start reading. We're breaking these down into 4 to 8 minute videos. Chapter 1, the packaging is broken. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and it was good. And that should have been the end of it, but good things tend to attract employees. The theologians saw the light, recognized it as divine, saw a job opportunity, and immediately began constructing a systematic framework to explain it that would take centuries to finalize and require a vote. The skeptic, annoyed that the theologian had gotten to employment first, saw an insufficient explanation for the removal of darkness and founded a competing discipline dedicated to measuring the luminosity in case the light turned out, upon closer inspection, to be merely a literary device. Both disciplines have been hiring ever since. Neither has, at any point in the intervening centuries, gone back and checked what the sentence might actually mean. This, in miniature, is the problem. The Bible is the most widely printed, most frequently translated, most passionately debated, and least carefully read document in human history. Not least carefully read in the way that people don't read the instructions for assembling furniture, but you can muddle through with the pictures and end up with something that mostly works if you don't lean on it. Least carefully read in the way that people don't read the terms and conditions for their mortgage, where the consequences of not reading are enormous and everyone agrees you really should have, and nobody does, and the entire system is built on the assumption that you won't. Two very large groups of people have spent 2,000 years arguing about what this document means, with a fever that would be genuinely moving if either group had checked. The book you are holding or listening to, that the Bible argues that the Bible is the most advanced system of communication ever produced, that the arguments currently being used to defend it are largely terrible, that the arguments being used to attack it are largely correct. All three of these are true at the same time. How our three are true is what the next 200 or so pages are about. There is a degree you can earn in divinity, which is the professional study of why this text is true, without learning very much Hebrew, which is the language the text is true in. There is also a degree you can earn in the philosophy of religion, which is the professional study of why this text is not true, without learning very much Hebrew, which is the language the text is not true in. The first degree gets you nicer buildings. The second gets you more citations. Neither pays particularly well. But both of them have hired everyone. The theologian wrote the doctrine, and the pastor preached it, and the congregation heard it and told their children, who grew up and either believed it or didn't. The ones who believed it built churches and summer camps and learned to say, "I'll pray for you," in a tone that can mean anything from genuine compassion to a declaration of war, depending on the context, and developed an entire culture in which the phrase, "it's not a religion, it's a relationship," is said without irony by people who attend a weekly scheduled meeting in a dedicated building led by a credentialed professional following a liturgical calendar. The ones who didn't believe it found the counter-arguments, which the skeptics had helpfully provided in best-selling hardcovers, and developed their own vocabulary of phrases like Sky Daddy and Bronze Age goat herders that mean nothing to anyone inside the community and everything to anyone outside it. Both communities developed t-shirts. And then there is the rest of the world, which buys the t-shirts. The rest of the world got its position on the Bible from a television narrator explaining over dramatic music that the city mentioned in the text may or may not be buried under a hill somewhere in Turkey, which is the kind of claim that sounds more credible when paired with a helicopter shot. Or from ancient aliens, which notice that the book of Ezekiel describes something that no theologian has adequately explained, and propose that it might be spaceships, which is at least more interesting, and did so with the calm authority of a man who has never once considered the implications of what it would mean if he were right, which is, now that I think about it, a quality he shares with most seminarians. Well, you got your position from a youth group leader who answered your honest question with, "You just have to have faith," which is the religious equivalent of "because I said so," and has produced more atheists than Richard Dawkins ever did, which is a shame. Because the kid was asking a real question and the leader probably sensed there was a real answer. He just didn't have it. Well, you got it at 2 a.m. from a friend who had enough whiskey to finally admit they actually believed it, at which point another friend had enough whiskey to admit they thought that was stupid, and both of them were right about the other person's position having problems. And both of them were working from the same amount of primary source research, which was none, but the drinks were strong and the opinions were stronger, and by morning everyone had agreed never to bring this up again. Well, you got it from your grandmother, who believed with a quiet certainty that needed no defense and no explanation, and whose funeral was the last time you were in a church, and who would have been baffled by every sentence in this chapter, not because she disagreed, but because it had never occurred to her that any of this required arguing about. You have a position on the Bible. You might not think of it that way, but you do. Whatever it is, you didn't get it from the text. You got it from the supply chain, from a sermon or a rebuttal, from a documentary or a drunken confession from a youth group, from a guy with crazy hair talking about spaceships. The thing is, everyone is right. The skeptic is right that the theologian's explanations don't hold up. The theologian is right that the skeptic hasn't engaged with the entire text. The ancient alien guy is right that Ezekiel describes something no seminary has adequately addressed. Your grandmother was right that arguing misses the point. Your drunk friend was right that it takes whiskey before anyone will talk about it honestly, which means even the liquor industry is getting a cut. Every single critique of every single other position lands. Nobody's defense of their own position holds. Everyone's arrows hit. Nobody's armor holds. That's the supply chain. That's where you got yours. But the supply chain delivered a product, and the product has a label on it. In the next video, we'll read the label.